Hey everyone, you find me in one of the bedrooms at the Gray Shutdown household, in which I think the solution to some of these problems that we're having with the older style window and blind scenario here might be solved by essentially a 3D printer. So here's the plan. I need to do some measurements, and then I'm going to go meet one of my friends who actually owns one of these 3D printers, ask him some really fun questions about the solution and the process, and I'm really excited to get started. So I've brought my calipers and my trusty little notebook here to jot down some notes. I feel like this is the Tim Taylor episode of watching the Gray Shutdown household. It's like the old home improvement days in some ways.
As long as it doesn't end with more power.
Well, there might be that. Never say no to more power.
Oh, Lord.
So the file that I printed, I believe, was 38 millimeters. Actually, no, I take that back. It was 32. That's not going to be wide enough. So what we need to do is I'm actually on the little file that we have. Essentially, it gives us a 32 millimeter base. You'll notice that my window blinds are much wider than that. So I'm actually going to need to print something that's more kind of going for like this. See how if I was to, the idea here, I should explain to our viewer at home what's actually going on here. I have older style window blinds, and rather than replace them, we're going to get some extra life out of them. And we have older windows. And so what's happening is in the condensation is building up on the bottom side of the window here unless you actually crack it. So what we're doing is we're just going to build a 3D printed stop that essentially just hangs right here and prevents this from coming all the way down. Because why, you ask, not do it up here? As you can see, with your older style window blinds, they start to either the ropes sag over time, or they actually, the knots up there come untied and you have to start basically treating this bottom end as a balancing act. So by creating these 3D window stops at the bottom here and mounting them to the window sill, or actually, what would I call this? The window frame. This will be a solution to the problem.
Basically, it'll prevent the blinds from accidentally closing, or one of us accidentally closing it, or a guest accidentally closing it all the way. And so we don't get that condensation built up, which isn't typically a problem in the summertime, but where we live, it gets cold, half of the year, and so that's when we end up running into issues.
Oh, for viewers that haven't seen, my camera woman, or camera person, whichever we're going with these days, is behind the lens, and doggone sci-fi is doing a fantastic job.
Ah, thank you.
So yeah, I'm thinking something like 3D printed like this, where it would be like a guide and kind of catch it up against the wall here. And just we can figure out what height to mount that at. So that's my plan. All right, so what is that? 52 millimeters.
Yeah, it looks like 52 millimeters.
Let's see if I can go to 50. Save some material.
I missed the opportunity to make the joke of, just call me Al. Everyone knows who the real star of the show is.
Yeah, we could go to 50 millimeters.
Oh, you didn't laugh at my joke.
50 millimeters for that?
I don't think so, Tim.
I don't think so, Tim. I don't think so, Al. Well, I don't think so.
Now you got the joke. There it is. Took a while to land.
I know.
Much like those blinds.
Well, as you guys can see, this is essentially what happens, is that these ropes start to get out of alignment and you don't actually have a level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm excited to get the fix in place.
Yeah.
I'm excited to use power tools, which is always a fun thing to play around with. So the next stop, now that I have the initial measurement, is to go meet Rob and to start working on this drawing that we found up, and we'll see where we go from here. So we're hanging out in your garage. The basic questions we talked off camera were simply just, What made you get into it? Like, what excited you about starting 3D printing? How long have you been doing it?
I would say I've been interested in 3D printing since 3D printing became a thing. I have really, really gotten into it in the last 5 years, right around COVID. Like,
Sure.
I had time, right? Um, my first 3D printer was a little mini cube, and it wasn't very successful, so I kind of put the whole process on hold
Sure.
until until the COVID time, where I basically was like, I need a hobby, and so I picked up my next 3D printer and been printing ever since. It's kind of one of the hobbies in a slew of other hobbies, because right now I have, your what you would consider just your basic PLA kind of printer, and then I also have, my resin printer, and I also do some work with wood and other things too. So a bunch of hobbies in this little room.
So I would ask you this. Obviously, I had a problem which 3D printing is solving a solution for.
You've had a lot of problems that 3D printing has solved solutions for,
My question is,
which is fantastic. I love making prints that are functional and useful, right?
what was your first, I guess, your need for a 3D printer? Was it something that you had in your mind of like, I want to print this and I need this for this purpose?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Originally, I bought my very first printer. It was one of those Kickstarter deals, and it was affordable. And I got it, and I think I made 3 prints on it, but it was so challenging to set it up right that I put it off the side. Then later, when I decided to invest some money into it and purchase a good machine, I had dreams and goals of printing things for my classroom.
Okay.
And that is what I do. More often than not, I print things for my students. And so I sell them in my little student store, and kids love seeing what you create. Beyond that, I was given the 88 Nissan sitting right behind you there. And I've actually been working and designing and crafting parts that I can actually replace some of the broken, damaged plastic that's in it, because it's a 30 some odd year old car. So it's kind of been a need and a want at the same time. Like, it fills a lot of purposes. But to just think, like, was there one specific thing I had to print? No, not really. I wanted to print it all and see what happens. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
That makes total sense. Technology-wise, I'm assuming it's come a long ways since the early days when you first started this.
Well, obviously.
What is the most important factor of measure in that if you were to track the lineage of improvement of printers? Is it speed?
For a recreational printer like myself, speed has never really been a big issue. Like,
Okay.
my biggest issue has been reliability. And it's what's led me to the Bamboo Labs PS1 that I'm on, or P1S that I'm on right now, which is behind us. This thing is out the box, good to go. You just set it up and it runs. My previous printer, I would have to keep constant vigil on it and make sure that it wasn't a terrible printer, but if you were even off by a fraction of a millimeter, you could upset your whole print. Whereas this basically takes the guesswork out of it. And so, honestly, speed has been nice, but it's not as important as reliability. I can go to bed at night and I know, like, this thing, if it does error or does glitch out, it's not going to ruin the device. One of the big things about 3D printing is it gets really expensive.
Yeah.
The machine, like this machine itself, costs about $1,000. It's actually doing really nice. And then, the AMS, the ability to print different colors on the same print, that's another $300. But beyond filament, on my other machine, I spent probably a good $200 to $300 upgrading the circuit board, and then I had to upgrade the bed, and so it ended up being like a $2,000 machine, and it wasn't as reliable as the machine that I have now. So reliability is probably the biggest thing. As printing has become more and more efficient, that reliability has also gone up too. So
That's fair. What's I guess the question I would ask you then is what's next? Like, is this the?
I have a wife. I don't think anything's next. No, truthfully, I want to add, because this printer will allow me to actually have 16 colors.
Oh, you want to add that?
I want to be able to have. I want to maximize this, so I need 3 more of the AMS systems. They're about $350 a piece, plus the ability for it to control itself is another couple $100. but I want to be able to line up 16 rolls of filament and go to bed and be like, I know I'm going to get this brilliant, colorful, masterworked piece without doing a whole lot of, okay, I have to go out at the midnight and change this over, which on my old printer, it was a single spool. And so it was, if I wanted another color, I had to make sure to pause it, which could then throw off the print itself.
For sure.
This is all intertwined. So for me, the next thing would be 3 more of these. 3 more of the AMSs, not the printer itself, although I probably will invest in another one. It's just really fascinating to watch this machine work, just from the sheer standpoint of we're staring in on it right now. We're watching it essentially build grids and lay down lines for something that you and I just created 30 minutes ago. And you know that functionally it's going to come out and it's going to be something that you can use, and it's something you created. And that for me is like the biggest piece.
Yeah.
When I create something, it's like, wow, I did that.
Yeah.
And so I have a sense of accomplishment that comes with it. But it's a lot of fun.
In some ways, it kind of feels like creating content or like creating videos, like the FPV drone world, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh,
you get
absolutely.
That, like, satisfaction of
From beginning to end, like once you're done, you're like, you know what? That was
I did that.
I did that. Like I've watched a lot of videos on your channels, and you know, you have your self-driving car, and you've got the drone over top, and it stays in sync.
Sure.
And then at the end, you have that great release of like, oh, we got through it all, and here we are, and it's the same thing. As this is printing, it's wonderful to watch. And actually, I think the sound is great.
It's very mesmerizing.
It is.
In some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
You can watch it for hours.
Lethargic is not the right word. It's cathartic. Cathartic
yes.
is the word.
It's very cathartic.
But it's along the.
But it's only cathartic if it's successful.
Yes.
You know, because there has been times like this isn't perfect. You know, there have been times where maybe the print bed wasn't. Hadn't been cleaned or something, and so it pulled away from it. I've come out here and I've found, you know, mistakes and blobs and all that stuff, and that's all good. But it is at that point, then you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what happened. So,
This is true.
yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough for doing this and for letting me come and help me with this problem
He
at
really
our
had
house.
to work to get me on camera, just so you know. I tried to stay over there, but he wouldn't let me.
I'll t-
I love it when he calls and he's like, hey, can you print this for me? And then it's a description, not the thing he needs.
We're back from the vacuum break.
Back from the vacuum break. After this vacuum break, we'll be right back.
We're back from the vacuum.
So your question about what got me into 3D printing, my wife bought me a remote control helicopter
Okay,
for
like
Christmas. This was like 8
small
years
one,
ago.
or-
A small one,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
I really wanted to get into RC.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was this idea like, oh, I was going to have RC cars and I was going to have things that fly and all of that stuff. Well, she gets me a helicopter that I asked for. She get it for me for Christmas. I was really excited. I take it out, I break it in 3 minutes. Like it was expensive for us at the time.
Because it was probably one of those ones that wasn't like the coaxial ones where it was super stable and.
Oh no, it was super stable. Yeah. I'm the problem. And so no joke, looking for options on how to improve the stability, I came across 3D printing.
Okay.
And it was like, at the time, you could buy, you know, essentially like this ping pong thing that allowed the helicopter to remain stable for beginner flyers, literally called that. But then there were options online that people were printing using 3D printers for the specific model of helicopter I had gotten. And I was like, oh, that would be really cool. And so I looked into 3D printing and I was like, well, I can afford this, you know, the little mini cube that I had. And true story, wasn't able to ever print anything that I actually could use off that printer. And quickly 3D printing became more fun than helicopter flying. And so, you know, when we talk about, oh, maybe you can get your own drone and those kind of things, I will break it. I would probably break it on a cloud is how awful I am at driving anything with a remote control. So take it for what it is. I'll leave you to the air. I will stay here and print things. So
Our stories of 3D printers and my stories of drones, the correlations of the life events of the time of our hobbies have definitely lined up equally.
Yes, absolutely. And from one hobby comes another one, and I'm okay with that. But right now, you know, as far as functional prints, I love getting requests to do that. And then on top of it, I really am I'm learning a lot about designing in CAD and doing that kind of thing to create products that don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And like, for example, in the Z car that's over there, there's a headrest that, because it was made of like particle board and it had gotten damaged, it was literally deteriorating. So I took it all off. Well, they don't make that anymore. And so give me time and I will have reproduced my own version of it and it'll look just like an original piece. So that's why I like 3D printing, that creativity, the option to get it done, I guess, is what you're thinking of. So.
And in some ways, I think there's a nice side of giving away your time to others, in a sense that there's some gratification that does come back from that.
Oh, 100%.
And probably with the way that you share your time with your students,
Oh,
you could probably have that knowledge experience of essentially just trying to, teach the future and just make the future better in some ways.
Oh, well, I don't know if I'm making the future better. Right now, my kids are really into these things.
Oh boy. Oh, the Stanley
Stanleys,
thing?
yes. And so in my Pride store, in my school store, I have made a bunch of those, and my kids are like, "Oh, I finally have a Stanley." I'm like, "You're welcome, I guess." So yes, 3D printing Stanleys has been a big part of my student store right now. Kids really love the articulated snakes and dinosaurs and all those different things that I do, and some kids will specifically say, "Hey, how many Pride points for X, Y, and Z, or whatever," and we come up with some sort of barter system. So they get to learn about the value that goes into the time that's spent on it too. So like I said, it's a fun hobby, but I think I would only continue doing it if other people found worth in it as well in what I'm doing. So that's why I like doing those projects. But, yeah.
But I think in some ways people find tremendous amounts of worth in this and value.
Right. Well, and it's gratifying too. Like, this was an hour ago, didn't exist. And all of these plastics and everything up here that it takes to make it created this, and it's in my power, in my wheelhouse to do this now.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for this one to finish, even though it was a very simple task. It just
It fits a practical application.
it's a practical application, and we can tweak it a bit here and there and make it more rounded, more polished, and eventually it'll be printed in white and you'll be like, "This is what I want." So
I get to take this prototype home with me, head back to the bedroom, and actually test this on the blinds to make sure that we're sized appropriately before printing out the rest of them in the series. Thank you, Rob, for your time and for doing this, and for at least talking to the audience and explaining the cool things that 3D printing can do for us.
he told me he's going to do it all in editing. I'm kidding.
Yeah, some of this will be quite raw, so thank you for putting up with it and hanging in there.
I've enjoyed it, buddy. Appreciate it.
So, cool. Thanks, Rob. A short time has passed, and you find us back in our bedroom, ready to install the bracket that Rob 3D printed for us. I made sure that our test print fit the blinds appropriately, so I'm now ready to actually install them into the windows here in this room. So, I've already gone and pre-marked where I need to drill for a pilot hole. And so let me go and actually drill the hole for the screws, and we'll install them and see how it fits. Now what we'll do is we'll go over here, do the same. Ran into an issue over there, which is that I had a small screw, which is preventing me from actually putting, it's basically blocking it. So, see what happens. Sweet. Worked out better than I anticipated. Oh, yes. Okay. Okay. Test fit. I think I might need to adjust the other side. Oh, yeah. I think I do need to adjust this side, but let's see here. Oh, yeah. That's what we're talking about. That fits perfectly. I just need to raise this side up a little bit. Okay. Easy fix. Switch over to the other drill. But it's like right about here. Okay, let's see where that's at, and I'll mark that appropriately. I recommend using a jig because you can actually have predictable heights where you put and mount your brackets at. And I realize that what I've been doing is probably time-lapsing this footage because, to be honest, watching me work and get through all of this is probably definitely tedious. So thank you for putting up with this. Okay, that's fine. That should fit fine. I forgot to hit roll and leave my time-lapse camera running. Oopsies. But these are completely installed now, and to be honest with you, they turned out better than I could have imagined. You see that they hold the blind at an appropriate height to allow air circulation to get underneath them and not have condensation build up on our windows in the winter, which is awesome. And if we have guests over or someone staying in this room, it's very simple for them to just lift over that stop and actually have the full light privacy. Very, very convenient. I can't thank Rob enough for 3D printing these for me, and I can't thank him enough for his time and actually spending the time with us to answer random questions and share an afternoon with us. At any rate, if you have liked this content, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We all know how that helps the insane YouTube algorithm. This is the Gray Shot Down channel. I'm Andy, and we'll see you next time.